Hopefully we'll all have a good as we begin Breishis. And as the theme of this week, the piece that we're learning over here in Dvar Malchus is, the theme is the way you set yourself up Shabbos Breishis, so we'll go the whole year. So as we set ourselves up tonight in learning, so it should go all year long and only get stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay, I'm going to make one little thing before I start, and that is that I'm using a remote phone over here, meaning not a cell phone, but a remote phone, and the battery looks, I don't know, it's very possible, let's hope it will work really well, and everything will be great, and it will last the 45 minutes of the class, meaning it's a cordless, and it's not on the spot, and if I do, I would have to go away from whatever. Anyways, if it goes out anytime during the class, I just wanted to let you know, you can, if you go to YouTube, to the Maayon channel, you'll catch it there. And I'm also recording it over there, so it's being recorded. It's just for those who need the recording. But I hope we shouldn't have any problem. Okay. I really would like to get deep and far into this piece, and we started already this Dvar Malchus already last week, and therefore I would recommend everyone to listen to the first class if you didn't listen to this class, because I don't want to repeat. It was a very geschmacka class last time. It was very, in other words, we were already delved in and got to a certain depth and a certain energy of this talk. And I don't want to have to do it over again, so I'm going to try to cut to where we're holding. So if you feel a little bit something lacking, listen to it's on the YouTube of Maayon. I don't think I might have not, maybe I didn't name it yet, I'll name it tonight. The Dvar Malchus for Breishis, part 1. In any case, we are holding page 4 over here, the Yeshloima Habir Bezeh. But being that we finished after we let off after a few questions, and I only gave it the idea of the answer, but I didn't learn. I'll repeat the questions again. So, bekitzer. The Rebbe began the Fabrengen with the question, why Shabbos Breishis? Why Dafka Shabbos Breishis? Do we say that the way you are standing, the way you approach, your condition that you are in Shabbos Breishis, in the words of in Yiddish, wie man stellt sich weg Shabbos Breishis, also geht das ganze Jahr. The question is, why Dafka Shabbos Breishis? What's with the whole Tishrei L'chur is the head. Why Dafka the way you stand Shabbos Breishis? So we discussed last week is that Tishrei itself, because Tishrei is so lofty, and Tishrei comes from the word Rosh, which Rosh means head, and besides that, it's possible that the holiness and the godly state of being, the elevated state that we are in Tishrei, should be detached from everyday living. In other words, in our normal, regular, day-to-day lives, it's like we're entering into a complete different zone, and the experiences and the amunah and the attachment and the commitments and the spiritual light and energy that we experience in Tishrei, not necessarily is going to carry over into the ordinary life of the rest of the year, precisely because Tishrei is so lofty. So that's why the Chiddush of Parshas Breishis is that it acts as a powerful bridge, because Breishis has within it two things. First of all, the very notion of it called Parshas Breishis is the beginning of creation, Breishis Bara Elokim. So it's talking about the everyday world, the 6 days of creation, the world that we're just right now heading back into. That's number one. Also the idea that it's the last Shabbos in Chodesh Tishrei, and it's the Shabbos after Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, which elevate Shmini Atzeres, which Shmini Atzeres is the culmination and the internalization of everything that happened on Rosh Hashanah. So, and being that Shabbos elevates that, and it's also the Shabbos that we're benching Chodesh Cheshvan, so it has kind of its feet in both worlds, in both zones. The zone of the elevated, godly state of Tishrei, it's still within that, in that energy, but on the other hand, it's already dipping into ordinary living, and that's why it facilitates that transition and enables us to connect the two, which is very, very important. Now, this idea that Breishis, that Shabbos Breishis particularly, enables us to land in the world, but yet to retain the heightened connection and that heightened holiness and attachment to Hashem as we go into daily living. This idea, the Rebbe says, is related to the idea that Shabbos, right at the beginning, if we start reading B'nai, in the content of the parsha as well. And he began by presenting us with the idea that Chazal say that what does Breishis mean? B'shvil ha'toiro, b'shvil Yisroel. That Breishis, he brings first from the Medrash, b'shvil ha'toiro, b'shvil Yisroel, that's what Breishis means. Beis Reishis, there are two things that are called Reishis. And the question that Rebbe asked was, Breishis al pi Pashtus is telling you the beginning of creation. What are you telling me? The Jewish people and the Torah. The Jewish people and the Torah are way above the world. Torah and Yidden are way above creation. So, are we playing around over here? Are we telling us a story of creation? Tell me a story of creation. We're talking about Torah, which is above the world. The Jewish neshamas, if you're talking about the quality of the Jewish people being lofty souls that are a piece of God from above, then they're totally above creation, not part of creation. So what's how do Chazal just mess around chas v'shalom with this pasuk and take Breishis out of context and send it to meaning the Jewish people and Torah? Especially since we know that when Chazal say a pirush, they're not negating the other pirush. They mean to hold on that Breishis of creation, but at the same time, Breishis b'shvil Yisroel. How does it fit? Since there's such a vast difference, especially on Rashi, he asks the question, because Rashi brings both pirushim. Rashi says Breishis. Rashi says is the second Rashi. Rashi says on the word Breishis that Eina Mikra Elo. This pasuk needs a drash. You need to have a drash. What's the drash in this pasuk? Rashi immediately begins with a medrash that what it's b'shvil haTorah b'shvil Yisroel, the purpose of creation, sake of the Jewish people, and the sake of the Torah. And in the same breath, Rashi continues, if you want to learn the pasuk al pi pshat, then Breishis means in the beginning when God created heaven and earth. So he's asking a simple question: why does Rashi bring both? If Rashi's beginning, it's okay. It's sometimes when you give a share, and I always have that problem. I go off tangent, but at least at the beginning you try to stay the course. So. Rashi at the beginning, at least of the Torah, he sets his goal to teach Pshutei Shal Mikra. Let him state the Pshat. And if he's going to say Pshat is that Breishis means in the beginning of creation, and it fits nicely al pi Pshutoi from the very idea that Rashi calls it the Pshat. So why does he preface it with the Pshat of Medrash, which is not his business to do that, to bring us Medrash? Only in circumstances where Pshat doesn't work, he brings us Medrash. And if he needs to, he brings it secondly, not first. Here he puts it first, so we need to understand. Secondly, to make the question stronger, he says, in regarding Rashi, in the first Rashi, the first Rashi of the Torah, Rashi gives the whole thing that the Torah really shouldn't have begun with Breishis, with the story of creation. The Torah should have started with the mitzvahs that were given to the Jewish people, because that's what the Torah is really all about. Mitzvahs to the Jewish people, which begins in Parshas Boi, HaChodesh Hazeh. Why do you start with Breishis? Because Hashem wants to tell us the story of creation, that if the nations of the world are going to bother us and call us thieves for taking what they might think of as their land, we have to tell them it's God's land. He created and He gave it to the Jewish people. So you see clearly that Rashi is saying that when the Torah opens with the word Breishis, it's the story of creation. Rashi's asking the question, why does the Torah start with the story of creation? And Rashi's answering, it's important to give you the story of creation. So Breishis, Rashi said explicitly in the previous Rashi, it means the beginning of creation. And then a second later he says, Breishis means the Torah. It's inconsistent. So v'yesh lema habir b'zeh. Let's learn it inside over here. Perek Gimel. Malashon Chachamenu Zal, from the words of our Chachamim, sheBreishis perushay kavanas v'tachlis kol habriya. What are Chazal learning Breishis? According to what Chazal are learning is that it doesn't just mean Torah and Yisroel. But Torah and Yisroel, the Torah and the Jewish people, as they are the kavana and the tachlis of creation. What was the creation? Why was heaven and earth made? Breishis means the purpose of. The purpose and the meaning of Bria Shemayim Va'aretz is for the sake of the two things that are called Breishis, Torah v'Yisroel. Ubeshvi Yisroel shenikra Breishis. Moving, it's understood. Shezesha Torah v'Yisroel hem Breishis. This that we speak about Torah and Yidden that are called Breishis. We have to be very careful with that idea as being Breishis, not to pick it up too high. Because if we pick it up too high and we detach it, and we make it a very abstract element, because Torah is so godly and so high and so lofty, and because the Jewish people are so lofty and so high and so great, we might detach it from the world, from the physical, from what we call the real world. There's Torah and Yisroel, Yidden and Torah. No. He says, Machshavton she Yisroel. Since we might chas v'sholem, since we're saying that moving into Zesha Torah v'Yisroel em Breishis, which means, Machshavton she Yisroel kodma l'chol davar. Since the machshava of Yidden comes before everything, we shouldn't think that we're talking about a detached idea of Yidden and Torah as they exist in some heavenly state of existence. Of course, it means that as well. We can't say that when you say for the sake of the Jewish people and for the sake of Torah that they're called Breishis. That means everything. It means that we're beginning, quintessential beginning, go all the way up and find the neshama as it is rooted in machshava hakduma da'ak of Adam Kadmon, like we say in Hayom Yom. Way prior to everything possible. That's true. But it doesnn't only mean that. As they are completely above the creation. Then you couldn't call them the beginning of creation. They're prior to creation. You can't say the creation was created for them, because what does the creation, tiny, insignificant creation, have to do with something as great and as significant and as absolute like Yidden and Torah? There's no connection. If we're saying that Yidden are the tachlis of creation, and that we're saying is that they're the beginning of creation, means that they're part of creation. Elo be'ikr, it is very important, be'ikr. Shazeh mishtakav kam lamata. That this lofty, the greater, superiority of the Jewish people and the Torah over the rest of creation is not only a very spiritual idea, but it actually expresses itself and reveals itself very, very, very much in the world and as part of the world. And as we're going to see soon, and that it's absolutely important that the world recognizes that and appreciates that. That as the Jewish people are part of the creation, they are the beginning of creation. For their sake the world was created. It doesn't even say Rosh, it says Reishis, beginning of. If you're calling them Reishis, you're already attaching the word of. They're the beginning of something else. They're the seed from which everything else grows out. Reishis kamoy bereishis tvuasa, the Kol Yisroel, the beginning of the grain, moidesha reishis ulumekatchila, from the beginning, eino nefredes meshara tvua. It's not separated from the rest of the grain. It's together with all the grain, and yet, as it is together with the grain, you point it out and you say, no, but this is special. We choose it, and we say, this is special. But in order to emphasize how much we are referring to the Jewish people and us, when we say Jewish people, we have to always remember, we're talking about each and every one of us. Mamash, you have to think about yourself. You, and our specialty as being Jews is not an abstract idea, but we're dealing with the Jewish people as a chelik of the world. He brings this idea that tvua, that there's a certain moment where you can't even tell the difference between one tvua and the other tvua, between grain and grain. You're coming into a field, you see a bunch of grain, and before you speak to the farmer, you don't even know, it's all the same grain. And the farmer takes you to the side and you say, this row over here, this is really where it's at. For whatever reason, this is at. So now you notice it, or else you wouldn't even notice it. What does that emphasize? That's emphasizing that we're talking about something that is so much part and so similar and so so undifferent than everything else. And yet, it's completely different. And what is that telling us, Benegay, to us? That the mile and the quality of the Jewish people is not in our deepest, highest, Yom Kippur diga, pure state of existence. We're talking about us in our very, 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 very regular, everyday, physical, and even we're going to say soon, even coarse. That's strange, but even coarse existence. So we're going to understand this according to the explanation in Tanya, B'lashon HaTfilah. In the Lashon of Tfilah, Bana B'charto, Mekalam B'lashon. B'chlal, this entire Sikha is an incredible Sikha. Again, it's so simple, yet so revolutionary, yet so deep, and yet so cosmic, and yet so everything. It's so Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev on the one hand, it's etzem. See, what the Rebbe is doing over here is that the Rebbe is going to reveal how there is no excuse ever, chas v'sholem, to dismiss a Jew. Because even when you have a Jew who's nothing more than a physical body and a coarse, grubba physical body, meaning a Jew that doesn't have any edelkeit in his body whatsoever, dafke, and guess what? And even that yid is included in the bechira of the Eibishter, because when the Eibishter chose our bodies. And even though that's already a vort in Tanya, it says in Tanya that already, but the Rebbe is going to take it to a real extreme. The Alter Rebbe doesn't even say that the Eibishter chose our physical bodies. He says the Eibishter chose our coarse bodies, our chumriyistic bodies that are similar in their corporality and their chumriyus and their grubkeit, if you can say, to the bodies of the nations. And that's where there was a choice, and not just a choice, but as the Rebbe is going to explain now, true choice comes from the deepest point of the chooser. Because when we're talking about true choice, it's not choosing based on necessity. Because then if you're choosing something based on its qualities, that means you're choosing something based on its necessity. And if you're choosing something based on its necessity, then you're not choosing from a free place. You're choosing from yourself as you have already certain limitations. To choose from a free place means nothing compels you. You're absolutely free, and you're making a choice just because. And that's the ultimate, and therefore by God, it's the only time, the deepest and strongest expression of the very quintessence of God. The Eibishter Aleins, Atzmos Samahos, as we say, the Eibishter himself is the choice that he made, not in Jewish souls, but in Jewish bodies. And this is a theme that we do learn in Chassidus many times, but there's something very unique in the way it's developed over here. So let's read it. Adman Azakim Avar Betanya. The Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya. That this that the Eibishter chose all that us from all the nations that we say in the Lashon of davening. That Alter Rebbe says, talking about our physical corporal bodies that appear to be similar to the coarse bodies of the nations. Shekain, what does that mean? And the Rebbe explains why. Maybe Bechira means Hashem chose our beautiful neshamas, our holy spiritual selves, our godly potential. No, Shekain Bechira, because they say that the Jewish people possess a special neshama. It says no, Shekain Bechira shayach loimer dafka ben dvarim shavim zelazeh. Bechira you can only say about two things that are equal, be'inyan hamavukish, in that which you need. And you're looking for a car, and you have two cars that are absolutely the same, and you have to make a choice in something that you might say is insignificant for utility. It's a choice that you're going to make in color, for instance. It doesn't make a difference. It's not like, a color that which you're choosing because you want it to be more clean. Let's say in case where they're both not going to show dirt equally and so on and so forth. It's just you're going to choose if you want this whatever I'm looking for, different we're saying colors, the different grades of blue or gray or whatever it is. Things that don't have anything in common. Things that don't have anything related to them. They exist in two places. They exist on two levels. You can't say bechira, free choice. And then it's dependent, what do you want? And where do you find yourself? If someone is given a choice, someone who's been a very, very great intellectual, and all his life he studies and learns, and he has a choice to meet one of the greatest teachers in the world, right? That's his choice. A Talmud Chacham, he has a choice to go sit in the Rogatchover's class or, some other goy and agoinim. And he has a chance. In his oldest life, he's been studying his works, and now he has an opportunity to go meet him. And then around the corner, or next door, there's someone who's giving them also a choice. You can come inside and you can have every type of pizza you want. So when there's a choice between pizza and this guy doesn't live in the world, maybe he might enjoy a good pizza as well, but there's in the world where this person lives, which is a world of knowledge and a world of understanding, what are you offering me? What's Bechlal they offer? Obviously that's in the most coarsest level of me but it's just, I'm giving a very, very, very extreme example. But these examples can obviously be even on subtler levels. If what you need and what you care about, what you're looking about, is in one thing and not in the other thing, so what's the choice? It's like even if you say, if you learned Chassidus all your life, and that's why, and I'm going to bring you some pirush from a very good rabbi who you can learn Chumash from. He's a good speaker and a good pirushim, and he has very nice parables. And I'll give you that book, or I'm giving you a new sefer on Chassidus that just came out, and you're living in the world of the beauty and the depth and the truth and the godliness of Chassidus. Then what are you choosing? It's not a choice. You're choosing this over that. That's what you're looking for. Either you're to be found in one place. The one who's choosing and his desire is to be found in the space. Space over here doesn't mean physical space, but in the arena, in that zone, in that reality. Or you're living in the space of the second thing, and therefore you're going to choose that. So real bechira is when a person chooses one of them, not in the second one. It's not because of a reason. So you're choosing. If you are choosing one thing because of a reason, because it has a certain quality, you might say, okay, what happens if I need to choose a refrigerator? And I'm going to the store and I have these 3 refrigerators that I like, and I have to choose one of them. So then I'm going on one of them. Why? Because it has a Shabbos mode. So, and therefore, the other one I'm going to have to tape up every time I use it. This one I don't have to tape because it has a Shabbos mode. So it becomes that's the necessity. That's compelling. So I wasn't free. I couldn't choose the other. In a sense, I wanted the other one because the other one had a little more space. So the other one had a little more this, but I couldn't choose it because by me, I have to use it on Shabbos. I need it. So when you're choosing something and the reason is, and the truth is sometimes, Taka, even in choices like that, when the things they equal out, then Taka, you're making a choice. But even then, it's like you're trying to figure out which one overweighs the other one, which one is more important. But in a case, Taka, we're not. You make your choice and then you really, and you chose it just because you chose it. I like to use more the example of colors, because by colors, it's more of a choice that's just, you're choosing it because this is what you want. And you can say, because this color this color speaks to me, but that's already not logic. That's who you are. That's because you are pink, or you are purple, or you are that's just your color. So that's already a deeper thing. Zugam eina bechira amitis. Bechira chavshis, real bechira is hayos v'atam, poyol netia. It's not a bechira chavshis, it's not a real bechira. Why? Hayos v'atam poyol netia shemachricha oisel livchay davar zeh. Since the reason is bending you to choose one thing, bechira amitis, bechira chavshis, true bechira, real bechira, hu kasher ein ba shum tam b'shum netia, is when you don't have any reason or any leaning towards one. You choose one because you chose this one, and this is the one you chose. Now it comes to the Eibishter, and God has to choose who is going to be his. So the Rebbe says, therefore, that's what the Alter Rebbe means. It's only shaykh to a body, which appears in its chumrius, in its coarseness, to the bodies of the nation. Excuse me. When we're talking about the neshama of a Jew, ain't shaykh loim b'banu b'charta. You can't say b'banu b'charta. Sharei l'neshama Yehudis, a Yiddish neshama, shechelik l'kayim mal mamash, the peace of God. Ain't shum dimyum l'umes ha'olam la'avdil. Even to a malach, there's no comparison. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, that if 10 Jews come together, the presence of God is so strong that a malach gets electrocuted, an angel. The Jews don't get electrocuted because a Jew's neshama is infinitely more powerful than a man. Besides the fact that we don't feel it, but even if we would feel, we would not. We have, in essence, our neshamas are so much greater because we're a piece of the Ein Sof, part of the Eibishter, and definitely over the souls of the nations. You can't say bechira, free choice. And that's if you're talking about the neshama. Now the Rebbe says, in general, forget about neshama. When we're talking about the Jewish people as when Yidden are not part of the world, in those areas and whatever there is they're doing, that they're like an am levada, they're in a higher realm. Over there too, we can't say bechira. Dafka begufa Yehud. Dafka when we're talking about mamish, the body of a Jew, that is to be found amongst the nations. And it appears very much the same to the bodies of the Gentile. And it's over there where God said, I'm choosing this one. In you God chose to be a chosen people. Mikola amim dafka. Where there is an equality, where they're the same. The Eibishter chose the Jewish body over the Jewish people, meaning us in our very physical existences. The Eibishter said, this is mine. The Yisroel Mazet, this is precious to me. I mean, all of creation is precious because they're God's creation, but this is mine. This is like my hobby. This is what I cherish. If you say to Mizeh, here's the Rebbe takes it to the next step. The Alter Rebbe doesn't say a body. He doesn't say guf hagashmi. He says guf hachumri, the body that's corporal, that appears in its chumriyas to the nations. The Alter Rebbe should have used the lashon in the gashmiyistic body. That is, that it appears the same like the gashmi, like a non-Jew's physical body. Sheken gama gufa gashmi shel Yehudi. So the Rebbe says the reason why the Alter Rebbe didn't say that, because if you examine the body a little better, the body of the Jew is different. Why is it different? Especially a Jew who's keeping Torah mitzvahs, because the way that body has been nurtured, first of all, the way the body was conceived through the process of the laws of Torah, which is very clean and very pure. So it creates lechatchila, or more of a refined body. Then especially through the eating, in which when we eat only kosher food, and we know that non-kosher food, in addition to it being a gezerah from heaven, that we're not allowed to eat it as a decree, it is also, has to do, as the Ramban says, that the non-kosher food brings certain negative traits into a person, certain cruelty or different types of things which become part of a person's blood. So when you're eating kosher, simply the body becomes more refined. So therefore, gam begashmi yusem agufa yom ha'olam. So you can't compare the bodies even. If you put the body under a scan that can scan the body for edelkeit, for refinement, a Jewish body is different. Mitzad zichuch haguf, the basar adam anasa yedei kashrus achila, that comes about through eating kosher food, ushtia, and drinking, which makes the Jewish body more appealing to God. Obviously, we don't necessarily always see it, but the Eibishter, of course, with his infinite eyes and ability of sight, sees the difference immediately. He can't choose, because how can he choose? This a Jew's body is different than the non-Jew. Dafka in the body, as it is very chumriyistic, which in its corporality, it seems to be core. Now it's interesting. So how can you differentiate? That means you could say two things the Rebbe means over here. A body that's not keeping kosher. The Jew as a body not being refined. Or within ourselves, we understand that there are certain parts or certain aspects in our bodies that we didn't refine. Certain times we're maybe a little overly gluttonous and overly involved and overly vergrept. As you say, okay, there's an edelkeit, but if I'm not edel, if I'm grub, if I'm coarse, if I'm not, and so then okay, over there I'm outside of God's choice because Hashem chose. Said, no. Even when the body is chumri sheba chumri, that's when adarabah, that gives the opportunity for God to choose it because He's choosing. Because then it's similar to a coarse body. And that's where the Eibishter made his choice. He waited to get the Jew down to a point where there is no difference between him and the non-Jew. So you have to have him in the coarsest state possible. And at that moment, he's choosing him not because he knows that really he has a higher neshama. That's all. No, putting all that all aside, he's making the choice that this is the body that he's choosing. And of course, he's putting a neshama, a Jewish neshama, into the body that he chose. But he chose those bodies. It's the lowest level. It says the word chomer, whom yesoid afar. Chomer comes from the word cement, which is earth. Hayesoid v'nivrachi tachten v'hakol dashan Allah. That's why it appears to the bodies of the nations. On this you need. And the Rebbe is going to say later in the Sikha, you in your coarsest moment, that's when the Eibishter chose you. In the coarsestness of your being, that's where there's a choice. This is the body that I'm choosing. Doesn't mean he's chas v'sholem choosing us because we're coarse. He's choosing us so he's choosing. But to say that he's not choosing us because of any qualities, so the choice is coming in because so he chooses. And that can only reveal itself. It can only reveal itself where there's an equal state. And there's no reason. But gufa chumri shel Yehudi of a Jew's body. And it's, by the way, when I was learning this the first time, it occurred to me, in a certain sense, when we go out and we do miftzayim, the Rebbe sent us out to do miftzayim, and we walk on the street and we say, "Are you Jewish?" Now, what's the chiddush? Besides for the chiddush of getting thousands of Jews to do mitzvahs, there's another tremendous chiddush. Even if the guy puts on the tefillin or he doesn't put on the tefillin, she takes the Shabbos candles, she doesn't take the Shabbos candles. The mere fact that you're meeting people that when you're looking at them, they're amongst the throng of people, there's no yarmulke, there's no tzitzis, there's no Jewish trait on them, and you're asking them, are you Jewish from? And if the response is yeah, you're saying, okay, yeah, so you're going to do the mitzvah. I'm offering you to do the mitzvah. In a sense, what you're really expressing in that moment is the Eibishter's ato b'chartonu mikol amen. More than when, you didn't come to shul and Yidden are all Jewish and we look Jewish and we dress Jewish and okay, yeah, of course, there's Yidden. There's all the people that are running the godly program. But here we're dealing in a state where people are not running any program. They're just one with humanity. And you're doing a process of selection. Selecting someone for the mitzvah, which that means the Eibishter chose these bodies to do mitzvahs. So in a sense, the Rebbe, revealed the Ato B'Chartanu. That's why the Rebbe taught us the Nigan Ato B'Chartanu also, more than anybody before him. Because the Rebbe began that selection process. We as agents of him, who is an agent of the Eibishter, to stand, think about it. When we're standing at a corner and asking Jews that they're Jewish, we're doing it as a shliach of our Mishaleach. And our Mishaleach is a shliach of the Eibishter, as we know that it's all shlichus is one inyan. It's all Mashiach plus 10 koiches hanefesh. It's all that shlichus to reveal the Ato B'Chartanu. We're going to see in Sikha, the ultimate purpose of creation is to reveal Ato B'Chartanu, to reveal this great choice that God made in the Jewish people. And we're actualizing it like never before in Miftzayim. That's interesting. The Rebbe doesn't say this, that's just my added thing. But it makes sense. I mean, this is what I was inspired from this inyan. This is really amazing. But here the Rebbe adds in parentheses something very nice. It almost seems like there is some kind of the Rebbe was arguing with some spiritual, with some being up there in heaven that was making a claim. So the Rebbe says, it's not shaykh that the mazel of the nations should question this. The question that in Chabad houses, of course, you get all the time. Isn't everybody creations of God? Kamoy b'nei Yisroel, like the Jewish people. And they should receive their sustenance from God, like everybody else, Yisroel, including the Jewish people. So what's the difference? And it's like it was at a certain point, where the nations argued, they serve idols and they serve idols. They don't look any different. In terms of their choices in life, they made all the bad choices. So the Rebbe says it's b'chlal not a question. You can't even argue that. It doesn't even, why? Because the Eibishter chose, and when he chose for no reason at all. If his choice would be based on refinement, sophistication, purity, holiness, goodness, kindness, generosity, compassion, I don't know, any kind of trait, then you can say they don't have that trait. But if it's not based on any trait, it's just because he's choosing. Madu imkain, so they're arguing, Madu imkain of Dolam b'nei Yisrael, why are the Jewish people different? This that the Eibishter chose us from every nation. That's the whole point of Bechira. They're absolutely equal, yet this is what I'm choosing. So if someone comes in, you invite someone over to you for dinner, and they come with their wife, and this is an old school friend, and you say, hello, meet my wife, and everything, and then you call the person aside, and say, why'd you choose her? Because what I chose. But, I know that in school, and you met her in college, there were like 20 or 30 other girls. Why'd you choose her? It's a ridiculous question why I chose her, because it's what I chose. This is my wife. And the truth is, when we choose, we're choosing things with reason. But the truth is, when you're choosing ultimately a partner in life, even though you think you're choosing with reason, you're really making a choice. But in any case, the Eibishter chose who he chose. That's it. There's nothing to argue. So what kind of question? Is God not entitled to make a choice? He chose. He created everybody and made a choice. Without any explanation. But the Rebbe is really saying over here, even when we are in a state when we don't deserve anything, the choice is in full force, no difference. Moving from this, it's understood. This that the Jewish people are the first of the creation. It's not just regarding the neshama that is separated from the world, but also regarding our body. On the contrary, on the contrary, the Rebbe says, the body. It's not only that there is a quality to the Jewish body over our very physical being is a quality over the rest of the world. No. The Rebbe says dafka the physical, because whenever the relationship the Eibishter has to the neshama as being a part of him and so on, it's all God. The Eibishter as Hashem has already certain expressions. Hashem is already in a state of having certain hagdaras, certain definitions that define. If you can say that about Hashem, any kind of definition, but it's not his essence. The only place where the essence expresses itself is in this, where choice comes from essence. And that appears only when you're dealing with the body, as opposed to other bodies and the relationship the Eibishter has with that body. If the Eibishter has a relationship with the Jewish people coming from their neshama, or because of their character traits, or because of their physical body being more of a refined body, as we said earlier. But no, because they're all reasons. And therefore doesn't express etzem. The Jewish body. Dafke in the body, and we said before, the body disconnected from any kind of a refinement. The body as it just being purely earthy and physical. And true Bechira is in the essence of God himself, which is shaloi be'erech higher than any level of Eibishter that's connected to the neshama. The Rebbe, I think over here gives a little bit of a depth of why Bechira is only that, but I don't want to go into that right now. So just like it is with the Jewish people, that the quality of the Jewish people and the greatness of Yidden is not only in a spiritual abstract state, but on the contrary, and even including the body, and on the contrary, dafka in the physical existence of a Jew is so much greater significance than all of the spiritual and highest levels of the Jewish neshama and all the qualities of the Jew. Dafka, the most tangible, earthy part of the Jew, dafka that is connected to the deepest. Which, by the way, sadly we had this horrible tragedy of a boy yesterday in Chicago. So when you hear a tragedy like that, and there's all kinds of, a person can kind of feel sometimes there can be some kind of a sense of, okay, you know what, so it's sad because tragedy in terms of the Nebuch lost his physical life, but I'm sure the neshama goes up and it's in a beautiful place in Gan Eden. And of course we know it's not a consolation for the family and so on and so forth because of the we're physical people and we relate to each other very physically. But it's so much deeper than that. There's no greater tragedy than harm to a Jewish body. No greater tragedy. Because there's nothing in all of existence in the cosmos more important than the Jewish body. So this is the greatest tragedy possible. And that should bring out the biggest atmasai. There's no repair. There's nothing in the Totchias HaMesa. Because the dafke, the guf gashmi of a Jew, is the most sensitive of sensitive. Because dafke there is bechiras of atzmus. That's parenthetical. Similar to the way it is to Yidden, in the first Reishis. The same is also regarding to Torah. Torah has a lot of spiritual ideas, content. Torah begins as in the highest, deepest levels of the Eibishter, that is where the Torah originates from, right? And then the Torah exists in all the spiritual worlds. But the Rebbe says the Torah is the most potent and the most powerful as it translates into physical halachas and to physical observance down here in its most, what we might call minutiae, in its most smallest and what we might think as trivial things. Dafka there, it has a potency. By the way, the same theme I saw in Torah this week, in the Maimer Tzena Arena in Parshas Breishis, the last Maimer. The Alter Rebbe explains how the Torah becomes infinitely more potent when it enters into the physical range. I was saying, it's not like the Torah down here is also holy, because God compressed it, like he says in Perek Dalet and Tanya, that the Eibishter compressed his wisdom, that even when it comes down in a physical form, it's also holy. No, there is a certain intensity. When I say certain, I mean an infinitely more importance to it in its physical form. That's why we know all neshamas are kicked out of Gan Eden and sent down here to observe it in its physical form. Torah is not in heaven. And when we say the Torah in its physical form means that it's formulated and developed in physical brains of the physical bodies of the Sanhedrin. See, it's connected because it's their physical bodies that create the ideas. It's only their a neshama once it left the body can't communicate Torah, or even if it does, we know they do, but it's not halacha. We don't accept it. It's not valid. It requires a physical brain. Shall b'nei Yisroel, the Jewish people. The Torah traveled, it closed itself in Gashmistic things. In this world, and it's most of the mitzvahs. The Rebbe is quoting Tanya, the Torah descends into a very Gashmistic state, b'dyoel sefer with ink, or v'kasher Torah nimtzas lamata, and that Torah. And when I was learning it, I don't know why the thought came to me. There is the Torah as it is down here in halach and all that. But let me put it more in terms. The Torah as it floats around on WhatsApps. Yeah. Very physical. You say, well, yeah. The Torah as it becomes a little Dvar Torah, passed on from phone to phone, from place. That's what we're talking about. That's where it is, the essence of all of creation. The Torah as it is in the WhatsApps. The Torah as it is in its most smallest, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say, in its most tiniest, that's where it's the most potent. And that's where Torah and Yidden too, in their tiny bodies. Now what's the idea? Mizgala malasaya atzmis, its true quality, essential maila. I'm going to finish, and I just want to finish this up, this sif, so that you'll. its merchandise is better than all schayra, mipazum mipninim yakara, better than jewels and gems. Shagam kefi shatayr nebtzaz ba'olam aschayra. Even when the Torah is in the world of merchandise. I mean, simply, the Rebbe is talking about physically. You can sell it. You're selling the book. You're buying and selling it. It's very tangible, very physical. It's greater than everything else. And that a non-Jew is not allowed to learn it. Because it's so holy and it's so godly. You'll say, well, you're not going to teach Kabbalah, you're not going to teach Chassidus to the non-Jew, but you can teach him the Torah as it's dealing in its most physical form. No, that's forbidden. As it is discussed earlier regarding the body of a Jew. But the Rebbe says, interesting in his thing over here, that the Torah is different than a Yid in the brackets. Torah, when it comes down, it's still the Eibishter lowering himself down into the physical world. It still remains the Eibishter's Chachma. When Yidden come down, into the physical body of a Jew is mamish, a piece of creation. You're dealing with a body. It's not a neshama. It's a piece of creation. Not only that, it's the lowest piece of creation because it's a piece of physical earth. So on the one hand, the Torah is very different. Torah down here is that it even came down here. The Jewish body down here is a piece of the world and a piece of the most physical, chunkiest part of the world. And guess what? But on the other hand, the Rebbe says, yeah, and the Torah, as great as the Torah is, even in its lowest, even when it comes down here, it still doesn't have the Eibishter's Bechira. It doesn't say on the Torah that the Eibishter chose it, but it says it on the Jewish body. So the Jewish body is on the one hand infinitely lower than the Torah when the Torah is down here, but infinitely higher because Dafka Bechiras of Atzmus is Dafka in the Guf Gashmi of a Jew. So this will explain, and I don't have time to read this inside, and we're going to definitely have to continue this next week because I find this to be a fascinating discussion. So therefore the Rebbe says, when it says, B'shvil HaTorah shenikra reishis, just to answer the question, or B'shvil Yisroel shenikra reishis, and we asked before, how does it fit with the world? Isn't the story Breishis the story of creation? And the Rebbe says, yeah. So, because when we say the Jewish people are Breishis, don't see the Breishis of the Jewish people as a lofty Breishis up there. See it as, no. The Jewish people as we appear, and not just appear, as we're mamish part of the very, very reality of the physical, gashmiistic, metziistic world, and yet the entire world exists for the sake of the Jewish people down here in their bodies. And therefore, where is the Sikha going? The Rebbe is saying that Jews are nachas v'shalom, never, ever, ever allowed to feel that threatened by non-Jews. The Rebbe was talking about the Jewish people caving into pressure in Israel. And that there was some rabbi, I don't know who the Rebbe is referring to, I have a suspicion of who it is, but I'm not going to say that tonight. In any case, that who was telling that, saying that because of pressure coming from Washington, we have to concede and give back parts of Eretz Yisrael, give parts of Eretz Yisrael, because we're dependent on the billions of dollars that America gives Israel. So the Rebbe says, America gives money to Israel. America exists because of the Jewish people. Of course, we have to be polite and thankful. Of course, it is our duty to be a mensch and to be nice and to be appreciative. That's a different thing. But we can't ignore the truth, and it's not up to us. We don't do anybody a favor if we're ignoring the truth that America's success and wealth is for the sake that they can help Israel and the Jewish people, because the entire 50 states of America, including North and South Dakota, exist for the sake of the Jewish people and for the sake of the Torah. So therefore, we should change or not take the gift that the Eibishter has given us, the entire Eretz Yisrael, because somebody in Washington thinks that because he's giving us money, he has a day on it. He says even a Jew to think that way comes from a sense of losing all sense of the idea of Ata B'chartana Mikol Ha'am. A Yid has to know Ata B'chartana Mikol Ha'am. A Yid has to know in his heart the whole world is here to support him. No, not some holy spiritual Jew. No. The Jewish people down here, Begashmis, in this world, including that we have a physical, geographic location, Eretz Yisrael, that's ours. And another very important thing that Rebbe says in this further on, which we're going to speak about next week, is that as we get closer to Mashiach, this inyan needs to become more and more and more apparent in the world. This year's, the Rebbe's capital is Halos Hashem Kol Goyim, Shabchu Ki Gover Aleinu Chastai. This inyan needs to become more apparent to the world. And it's interesting, to Jews, and to Jews on the left, Be'ikr, liberal-minded Jews, it's like horrible, this idea. But that's our mission. That's part of what we need to bring. When Jews become disconnected of Torah, the most important things are what threaten them the most. A Yid has to accept the idea that Atu b'chartanu mikol ha'amim. It's not up to him or her. It's not up to anybody. It's like telling someone who chose a wife that they can't choose that wife, because why are all the other 300 single girls? Why is it their fault that you chose this person? Shouldn't you choose someone else? It's not fair. What do you mean not fair? This is the choice that I made. And because of her, I went and I made this whole party and I invited everybody to the wedding. For God, I created the whole world because of her, because of the Jewish people. Yes, them in their physical state, and them not when we're in a holy, deserving state. Just Jews, just physical Jews in this world. The Eibishter chose. This is very important, and therefore we have to be very sensitive. And look, and I'm concluding with this, I'm sorry, I'm going a few minutes over, but the Rebbe is pointing that you see it in Russia, that the Soviet Union is starting to respect the Jews. And the Rebbe says that's a messianic thing. It has to do with the coming of Mashiach, because as you get closer to Mashiach, the Atu b'chartanu is coming out. So the non-Jew realizes that his success is for this coming from the Jewish people. And the other thing the Rebbe says is very important, is that, in Russia, and I'm saying, we have to be very sensitive, and I know a lot of Jews, and it bothers me to no end when you even see Chassidim, but because we're so inundated with the news, and we hear and we listen, and we get such fadreta cup from so much that's being pumped and such negativity, that when we're watching a certain movement in the United States that is so supportive of Israel, so supportive of the Jewish people, and applauds the Jewish people, and feels that the Jewish people need to have Eretz Yisrael and need to have everything, but we're always suspicious. They're doing it because of that. The Rebbe is clearly saying now. He says, as we're getting closer to Mashiach, the stronger this is going to become, and therefore we have to realize that this whole movement, not just that, but it's not just one particular group of Christians, but it includes the president of the United States, who is doing unbelievable things for Israel and for the Jewish people, and the war that's being fought ferociously, and is very clearly coming from the Sitra Achra. On all levels. And it's sad because I've seen how much it has influenced the minds of Frum Yidden and even of Chassidim. And when we're seeing so clearly the distinct of who's fighting for what and on whose team, who's lining up where, and you're seeing it clearly. But the newspapers make so much noise, and they've created such a monster out of this whole thing. And that's part of the Klippas fight. It's part of the Klippas fight. And I don't have to talk about it, and then they say, well, why are we mixing? Because this is part of the Neflas HaGiyula. We have to realize the Giyula. And when we learn the Sichos, we realize we have to open our eyes that something is happening, something huge. And in a way that it's happening now, it never was before. The administration was never so pro-Israel, never so backing. And if the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael, Netanyahu, would cease the opportunity to strengthen our Atu b'chartanu and to strengthen our answer to the nations, that this land is our land because God gave it to us. We have such a support coming from this country more than anywhere else in such a powerful way that now we can do it. But when it's weak, and it's weak even amongst us, even amongst Chassidim, and I know especially for Shluchim in California, so we're in we're in a very challenging situation, and so sometimes the makom hashlichus and the people that you're dealing with, their opinions and ideas, begins to create, to make headway into the minds and into the thought process and into the world outlook of, it's the idea that the mavarer, the one who's going down to do a birur, becomes influenced by the things that he's supposed to be mavarer, and instead it influences them. So it's just something we have to be very cautious of and be very sensitive and be very, listen closely, see what's the pneumius, what's really at the heart of the war that's taking place right now in the world, in American politics, in world politics. And if anybody has any bit of seichel, a little bit of a holy eyes, and you look at the state of the UN, the state of the world opinion, before 2 years ago, before 2016, it's still bad, but now you have a powerful force that's fighting it tooth and nail like never before. And we have to appreciate this, and I think the Sikha is touching very strongly on it. In any case, everyone, I'm sorry I went late. I wanted to leave you with the complete Inyan. And Be'ezus Hashem, next week we've gone through the more difficult part, so I hope that next week it's going to go smooth. Just very beautiful words further on in the Sikha. So hopefully you'll tune in. Sei gebencht and a good year.